How did an innocent child with a clubfoot and seemingly no hate toward anyone at all turn into one of the most famous Nazis and propagandists ever? This is the story of Dr. Joseph Goebbels. Paul Joseph Goebbels was the third of 5 children when he was born to Friedrich Goebbels and Katharina Maria Odenhausen on the 29th of October, 1897. Goebbels was born in Reit, a small town near Dusseldorf in Germany. Goebbels was challenged from an early age as his right foot suffered from deformity, creating a clubfoot of sorts. This deformity kept him out of service during the First World War. When in school, Goebbels excelled, which gave him the chance to be the speaker at several ceremonies, which would give Goebbels critical experience for speaking in the future. Goebbels' parents wanted him to be a Catholic priest, similar to a role his father participated in. Goebbels was seriously considering it, but ultimately decided to study literature and history. By now, Goebbels had strayed away from the church. Instead, he took a liking to women, as this was now seen as a compensation for his physical struggles earlier in his life. At the University of Freiburg, Goebbels fell in love with Anke Stahlhelm, but this relationship was short-lived, and the breakup led to Goebbels having some suicidal thoughts. In 1921, at the University of Heidelberg, Goebbels earned a PhD, which gave him the name Dr. Goebbels throughout his life. After university, Goebbels bounced around professions, most notably being a private tutor and a journalist for a local newspaper. At this time, his anti-Semitism was growing. In 1922, he began a love affair with Elsa Janke, who was a school teacher at the time. However, Goebbels was informed that she was half Jewish, which turned Goebbels off, but did not kill the relationship, as it was on and off until 1927. At this point, Goebbels did not know what he still wanted to do in life, as his writings and other literature were not successful, and they showed his lack of direction. Goebbels first took a liking to Hitler and the Nazis in 1924. Goebbels was attracted to the Nazi Party and Hitler because of their similar views and Hitler's loyalty to his beliefs. Goebbels officially joined the NSDAP in late 1924. He offered his services to the Gauleiter of the Rhine-Ruhr district, Karl Kaufmann, who then referred him to Gregor Strasser, who was the leading organizer in the north of Germany. Strasser eventually hired Goebbels to work on their newspaper. However, Strasser and occasionally Goebbels disagreed with Hitler on political topics, due to Strasser and Goebbels having more socialist views than Hitler. Hitler then organized a meeting where Strasser and Goebbels both attended, and Hitler spoke about anti-Semitism. Hitler also stated that socialism was a Jewish creation. Goebbels strongly disagreed with this and wrote in his diary that he no longer believes in Hitler. However, after reading Mein Kampf, Goebbels found himself agreeing with Hitler on several topics, most notably Hitler's views of a Jewish doctrine of Marxism. Goebbels then gave a speech titled Lenin or Hitler, where he explained that National Socialism was to save Germany, not Marxism or communism. Hitler then arranged speeches for himself and Goebbels at a beer hall rally. Because of this, Goebbels was now a total follower to Hitler and now adored him, unlike previously. Goebbels was offered the position of Gauleiter for the Berlin district in August of 1926. He accepted this role in October. Goebbels was given control over the local Sturmabteilung and Schutzstaffel forces, the SA and SS respectively. Here he only answered to Hitler and Hitler only. Goebbels was now in charge of getting more NSDAP members, and to do this, he, along with others, incited fights, brawls, and riots that would get publicity and attention, and hopefully get other people to join their cause. Like Hitler, Goebbels was now a very masterful and meticulous speaker. He often practiced speeches in a mirror, like Hitler. When there was a live speech, Goebbels was electric, as there were big ceremonies with lots of decorations. Berlin police banned the NSDAP in May of 1927, but still there were attacks on Jews at the hands of the National Socialists. Goebbels was also banned from public speaking until October. In his free time, Goebbels wrote a National Socialist newspaper titled Der Angriff, where there was a lot of anti-Semitism and provocation written within it. After a poor showing in the 1928 Reichstag elections, the Nazis had to do better if they wanted success. During the Great Depression in Germany, Goebbels complained to Hitler about the rival Strasser newspapers, which included nationalism, anti-capitalism, social reform, and anti-Westernism. Because of this, Hitler acted and put Goebbels in charge of propaganda and withdrew Strasser from that position. Because of the reparations from the First World War, the German economy was in shambles. However, the Nazis proposed a new German society based on race and national unity. This turned out to be wildly popular because in the following elections, the NSDAP received over 6.5 million votes and was now the second largest party in Germany. In late 1930, Goebbels met Magna Quant, a divorcee with one child, who he married and would have 6 children with. These children were Helga, Hildegard, Helmut, Holdine, Hedwig, and Heidrun. All their names started with an H as a tribute to Hitler. As another set of elections were approaching, Goebbels had to go all out for the Nazi campaigning. He organized massive ceremonies, parades, celebrations, and speeches that all helped their cause and helped them win the election. After lots of celebrations, Hitler was officially named Chancellor of Germany. After this, Hitler named Goebbels the Reich Minister of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. Goebbels, now being in the position he was in, converted a holiday that took place on the 1st of May about workers' rights annually, a holiday often celebrated by communists, into a day of celebration for the NSDAP. On the 2nd of June 1933, Hitler appointed Goebbels a Reichsleiter, the second highest political rank in the Nazi Party. At the end of June in 1934, the Night of the Long Knives took place, killing top officials of the SA and opponents of the Nazis, including Gregor Strasser. Because of this, as well as the death of President von Hindenburg in August, Hitler was named Führer and absolute ruler of Germany. Goebbels further exclaimed this over the radio and using propaganda. At this point, Goebbels' style of authority was seen as tumultuous and unpredictable. He was successful at his job of being a chief propagandist, but was not liked so much. Goebbels was interested in controlling the radio, which was becoming increasingly available, not just in Germany, but throughout the world, which meant Goebbels could possibly have an international reach. Free radios were distributed in Berlin on Goebbels' birthday in 1938. Hitler was making it clear that he wanted to rearm the German nation and the military, and to eventually conquer new lands. Goebbels was an enthusiastic supporter of these ideas. He was aware of the increasing panic and concern among the German people regarding the ever-approaching, seemingly inevitable war. He used propaganda to calm them down. After the Nazis were allowed to take over the Sudetenland part of Czechoslovakia, Goebbels turned the propaganda machine over to and against Poland. As the war for Germany raged on in a negative direction, Hitler started to make fewer and fewer public appearances. This led to Goebbels being seen as the primary voice for the German people and for the Nazi regime alike. As the Allies invaded Sicily and won the battle for Kursk, Goebbels was starting to realize that the war would either be very difficult to win or near impossible to win. Goebbels was now trying to split the relationship between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union by smearing the Soviets with negative propaganda, including the massacre in which the Soviets killed 22,000 Polish officers. On the 1st of April 1943, Goebbels was named city president of Berlin, thus making the city more united than it once was. Goebbels continued to make propaganda, although he knew it would have little effect. At this point, the Allies had now taken over part of France, as a mission of D-Day was a success, which is another crushing blow to the German war machine. After the failed assassination of Adolf Hitler on July 20th, 1944, Goebbels called for total war, which meant maximizing the war effort all around and shutting down anything not critical for the war effort. By now, the Volkssturm, a last-ditch Nazi militia, had been formed, which was deeply unliked by many. Goebbels was under the impression that these young boys and old men could effectively fight the Soviets, which was just unrealistic. After Goebbels' ministry was destroyed due to an Allied bombing attack, he had an understandably difficult time to make further propaganda. In the later months of the war, when defeat was almost inevitable, Goebbels' public announcements and speeches got increasingly dark and apocalyptic. After some arguing between the inner circle of Hitler's then most devoted associates, Hitler and his wife of under 3 days, Eva Braun both committed suicide in the Fuhrer bunker on April 30th, 1945. On the 1st of May, 1945, Goebbels carried out his sole official act of chancellor, which he was promoted to, with the death of the Fuhrer. He wrote a letter to General Vasily Zhukov and ordered German General Hans Krebs to deliver it under a white flag. Zhukov, as commander of the Soviets' 8th Guards Army, commanded the Soviet forces in central Berlin. Goebbels' letter informed Zhukov of Hitler's death and requested a ceasefire. However, this proposal was rejected. On the 1st of May, 1945, Goebbels' wife Magda killed all of their children by putting cyanide in their mouths while they were unconscious. Shortly after this, Joseph Goebbels and Magda went outside the bunker to the garden of the Reich Chancellery, where they both committed suicide. Their corpses were then covered with gasoline, but they were only partially burned and not buried. After examination by the Soviets, the remains were allowed to be destroyed. These remains were burned, crushed, and scattered into a river near the Elbe. This is the end of the story of Dr. Joseph Goebbels. Due to being a very famous Nazi, there have been several adaptations of Goebbels in films and television. In the most well-known movie he is in, Downfall, he is portrayed by Ulrich Mattes. Thanks for watching.